Welcome to the Creators MBA podcast, your go-to resource for mastering the art and science of digital product entrepreneurship. My name is Dr. Destiny Kopp, and I help business owners generate consistent revenue from their digital product business without the need to be glued to their desk, constantly live launching, or worrying about the social media algorithms. I hope you enjoy our episode today. And my special guest today is Brittany Long. Brittany is the AI cloning expert who works with ambitious entrepreneurs to automate, clone, and scale their businesses with AI for a regret-free life. And Brittany, I am super excited to chat into one of my favorite topics, which is all about AI, but we're going to be specifically honing in on AI and using it and cloning ourselves in our business. But before we get into all the questions that I have for you, can you tell the audience just a little bit more about you and how you help people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a former award-winning educator, and I thought that I'd be in education my whole life. And then I had a cancer scare that made me pivot into being a business owner. And I went into copywriting, which seemed like such a safe, excellent career until ChatGPT came out, and I was like, okay, this is definitely going to change everything. What am I going to do? And I thought I can pivot again, or I can be scared and stick my head in the sand. And so I pivoted again. And so that's how I got here. Is I knew that I would need to use AI because it was going to completely change my business. And I just dedicated myself to learning literally everything that I could as fast as I could and sharing what I was learning with others. And so that has brought me here. Over the years, I had my daughter, I have type 2 diabetes, so my energy kind of fluctuates throughout the day. And it's really important that I'm not at my desk all day. When I am at my desk all day, my blood sugar just skyrockets. And I'm trying really hard to get completely out of that type 2 diabetic range, which is not an easy thing to do. And so for me, I had to find a way to not sit at my desk all day and not basically just not be sitting all day. And so at first I thought maybe I can walk on my walking treadmill while I'm working, but that was too jostly for me. And I had a hard time reading and I started to feel sick. And so that didn't really work for me. And so I tried to look for other ways. And I thought, I'm already using AI. Maybe we can use AI to basically clone myself so that I'm not at the computer all day, so that I'm helping my clients more, so that I'm getting things out more and not getting stuck in me being the person that's producing all the content or producing all the traffic kind of activities. And so that's kind of how it all started. And I'm really glad because now I don't have to be at my desk all day, and it really has helped a lot.
And just for a little bit of a background for the audience, Brittany and I have known each other for years because I think you spoke at one of my summits that I had years ago. And it was you were talking all about evergreen email sequences. And that's when you were in your copywriter day. So I'm excited to
yeah.
changed so much since then. So I'm excited to dig into this with you. And I think first want to ask you this question, and because I think there's differences of opinions on this out there in the world, because we're all trying to figure this AI stuff out. Can you tell people exactly what it means to clone yourself, and what does it mean for us as solo entrepreneurs, as course creators, membership owners? What can we do with it?
There's so many things that you can do with it. And really, I'm thinking, how can I safeguard my legacy? How can I expand my team without having more people to manage or more people to hire on? And so for me, cloning myself looked like having a video and voice clone that we use for YouTube, that we use for Instagram Reels, that we use for onboarding messages, anything that we're doing, even video like courses and training and all of that. I still come up with the content. I still come up with the script because I enjoy that. But I have to be honest, there's some days where I don't want to put makeup on. I don't want to get all ready, but my clone is already trained on that. And she looks gorgeous because I recorded a sample of her when I had my makeup done and had my hair done. And so clones are really helpful for removing friction. If there's anything that you're like, man, I really need to do this thing, and it's been on your to-do list for months, start to think, can AI help me with this? And is there a way to clone myself so that I don't have this friction? I'm not holding myself back in my business. So video and voice is one way. We call that our social clone because we use it mostly for social. And so we use it for podcast episodes as well, my voice, for messages, for pretty much anything that would require your video or your voice. So that's the first one that we have. And then we also talk about your written clone. So that is how you speak, how you talk, how you write, that would be your written clone. And we like to train it with an automation so that all I have to do is just record my thoughts on a particular topic for a few minutes, 4 to 6 minutes. And then from there, it creates our blog posts, LinkedIn articles, Facebook posts, emails, Instagram captions, Instagram reel script, YouTube script, basically everything you can possibly think of that can be written. It creates that for us, but it's coming from my original voice and how I would answer the question. So it sounds exactly like me without very much editing at all. I usually spend less than a minute editing. We also have a coach clone we use with the students in our programs, our clients, and they can ask Coach Brittany AI questions 24/7. So if I'm sleeping and they have a question and they're like up at 2 a.m., maybe they're in a different time zone or they're just a night owl, they have a kid at home, I don't know, whatever it is, they can get those answers immediately. And it's trained, my particular one is trained on, I think, 1.5 million of my words. And so it's not just a GPT where it's only trained on a few things and it still might pull in from ChatGPT. It really is trained exclusively on my content and how I talk and how I would respond to people. And the really cool thing with this too is that I can actually see the questions people are asking and the conversations they're having, which not only is great for me so that I can support them better, but it's also great for them too, because not only do they get immediate access, but we're also using that to create more content. It allows me to see the gaps in training that I have or questions that I've answered. And so we're able to support more by having these clones. And then we also have a brain clone, and that is, I get decision fatigue sometimes. I don't know if anybody else listening does, but with the little one at home, she's 5 and has the most amazing questions that I don't think I would have ever thought of. And I'm just answering a lot of questions throughout the day. And so by the end of the day, sometimes I want to work on something, but my brain is just like completely fried from between family stuff and work and clients. And there's just a lot of decisions, especially business owners, make every single day. And so having a brain clone, I can just be like, hey, this is what I need to decide. It can review what I've talked with it about before and the training that I've given it. And then it can say, let's actually do this one because I think here's why you would like this best. I still have the final say, obviously, but just having a brain clone helps me drill some things down and get out of that loop of, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know, that I sometimes get in about things that ultimately don't really matter. And I just sometimes find myself stuck in a loop and I just need to get out of it. And so that helps with that a lot.
So you gave us a lot to unpack there. So I want to go back to the one that you talked about with your social clone, because I know that's something that a lot of us who are listening here struggle with. Like, we want to post more on social media or whatever that looks like for us, but we really do struggle with that.
Yeah.
So walk us through exactly how something like that would work and how would it save time in our business?
Yeah, so if I was to do all of this on my own, the YouTube video, the blog posts, all of that, a blog post alone is probably going to take me about a day. And some of you who do blog posts all the time, you might be like, oh my gosh, Brittany, that takes you way too long. But for me, I don't enjoy sitting down and writing blog posts. It just feels really tiresome. So it's something that I avoid and procrastinate on an entire day. Same thing with recording YouTube videos. I have to get makeup on. I have to get ready. I have to read through the script. I have to pause. I have to edit. But by having my social clone do it, I don't have to do those edits because there's no uhs and ums and, oh crap, I said the wrong thing again. There's none of that. And so the amount of time that it saves using your clone is incredibly significant. I mean, we just, like, now we get, I think it's 6 maybe YouTube videos out a month, whereas before I was getting like 1 out a year. So I can get a lot more out, but here's how it works. We have an automation set up and the trigger is a Google Drive, a Google folder. And so anytime I add in a new audio into that folder, it reads it, it gets the transcript, and then it starts everything else. So it then creates, using ChatGPT, but also using my voice, it creates the Facebook post, the Instagram caption, the Instagram reel script, the blog post, all of that. So it creates all of that within minutes. And so for me, my process is either on Sunday or the beginning of the day, I have an agent that does some deep research for me so that it can tell me what are the trending topics right now, what are the questions that people are asking me the most in my inbox. And then once I have that information, I take my daughter to school, I drop her off, and then before I leave the parking lot, I press play or record on my voice note recording on my phone. You might want to use otter.ai for that, which would be great. Or you could just use we have just a voice note app that comes with an Android phone. And so I press that, and then I just record my thoughts on the particular topic for the 4 to 6 minutes it takes to get to the office. And then when I get to the office, I park, I stop the recording, I share the recording into the Google folder. And before I make it from my car into the office, all that content is already created. And so in total, it takes less than 15 minutes, which is obviously way less time than it would take me to create all those things on my own manually.
Okay. So basically it goes through and creates, it does everything for you. Like it'll create the video that you can upload to YouTube and any reels that you could upload to Instagram, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it can do that. We can add that into the automation if we want. We had that in there for a while, but it was getting a lot of error messages and it was just taking us more time to make the edits than it would have just for us to manually put it in. And so what happens is that it creates a script for us. Let's say the YouTube script. It creates a YouTube script for us, and then it notifies my team member, and then she gets a notification that, hey, this new script is ready. All she has to do then is copy and paste. She tests it out to make sure it sounds like me, it looks like me, all of those. There's nothing funky happening. And then she generates it. And from there, then she uploads it to YouTube, adds the image, the thumbnail, and all of that. The description is also already created.
All right. So that's the social one. And the other one you mentioned was your brain clone. Walk us through that a little bit more. Like, how did you set that up? What are the steps for that?
Yeah, so my brain clone I actually use as a project. And sometimes people ask me, when do you use a project? When do you use a GPT? And I love AI software as much as the next person, but I'm always thinking, how can I get the most out of what I already have before adding something in that I maybe don't even need, but it's just like a new cool tool. And so for me, project works really well. So difference between project and a GPT, if you want something that you can just chat back and forth with, but also has all the context, then that's when we would use a project. If you want something that gives you step-by-step instructions, like an SOP, or asks you specific questions to follow a process, or you want to share it with a team member or a client or as a lead magnet, that's where we'd use a GPT. So for this situation, I'm only sharing it with me. I'm going to use a project. And so in the project, there's a few things. One is instructions, and that's like a job description. So you want to explain who this project is for you. My brain clone project, I let it know that I want you to help me make decisions based on what you know about me, what my values are. So I give it information about that. Here's my top 3 values. Here's what's most important to me in my life. Here's my personality test that I've taken. I even give it information about I have energy fluctuations because I have type 2 diabetes, but I want to get out of having type 2 diabetes. So it has all that information so that when it's making decisions for me, let's say that I'm like, hey, I could stay up late working on this thing or go to bed early and work on it tomorrow, but I'll feel behind. What should I do? And so it's likely going to say, you know what, your main goal long-term is to be healthy long-term, which means you need to get some sleep. It's okay to feel a little behind. So it'll give me those kind of things, but I give it all that information. And then we have the project files, and the project files gives it more context. So that would be where I put transcripts. That would be where I put any kind of like frameworks that I have, anything like that that would help me make decisions. And so that's how that works.
So when you're talking about projects, you're talking about the project folders in ChatGPT. Right. Are you using ChatGPT or something else?
Yeah, I'm using ChatGPT. I almost exclusively use it. I do have Claude and other ones as well, but because I've trained ChatGPT so extensively, I use that most of the time. Now, really good for me. And everybody was like, this is garbage. And I didn't understand it because mine was doing great. But now it's been like a month into it. Now mine is garbage and other people's are improving. So I am using Claude a little bit more now than I was previously. But it just depends. I have both of them because I don't really want anything to slow me down. I want to be able to stay in flow. And so that's my approach to that.
Okay. All good information here. Let me just get a little bit more granular with you. So for the people who are listening, the coaches, the courses, the membership owners, if they want to get started implementing these clones in their business, where do you see people starting where they get the best results?
So the most important thing that you can do is to start with what your goals are. So for me, my goals might look different for you. Like maybe you are like, oh, I have no problem writing blog posts, no problem doing YouTube videos. So for you, it might not make sense to start with a social clone first. It might make sense to start with a written clone or your coach clone. And so we want to get really clear. What I like to do is to go into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever your tool is and basically say, based on what you know about me in our previous conversations, what would you say is my real goal, like that underlying goal that I maybe haven't even been brave enough to say out loud yet? And so it's going to get really clear on that. And then once I look at those goals, I'm going to say, okay, now I want you to identify if I'm currently on the right track to hit those goals. And then I ask it to identify what kind of clone would be best for me to use. But alongside that, I also take a time study. So if I'm saying, what's my goal? Am I going to reach it? Am I on the right track? But I don't give any context, it's not going to have that full picture. And so when I'm doing a time study, I usually do it for at least 4 days. And I write down what I'm doing every 15 minutes, which might sound like overkill, but what I found is that it's so easy for me to forget things that I was doing or just be like, oh, this will only take a minute. And so I don't write it down. And then all of a sudden it's taking me an hour. And so with time studies, to really use them effectively, we want to write down what you're doing every 10 or 15 minutes so that you can get really clear on how you're actually spending your time. If you've ever spent an entire day working and you look back at it and you're like, what did I even get done today? That's a good sign that there might be some things that you're missing on there. And so then I upload the time study and ask it to identify what are the things that I can delete, the things that I don't need to do anymore because they're not actually moving the needle forward. What are the things that I can delegate? What can I delegate to a team member if I have a VA, for example? What can I delegate to an AI agent? And what can I delegate to an automation? And then finally, what can I delegate to a clone? And so those are the kind of things that I want to be thinking about on that and having ChatGPT or Claude or whatever helping me identify. Once I figure that out, then I say, okay, based on that, what clone is going to have the highest impact with the lowest effort? What can I get done as quickly as possible, but it's going to have the highest impact? Once I've done that one, then I move on to what's going to have the medium impact with the lowest effort. And then once I've done that, I say, okay, what's going to have the highest impact with medium effort, and so on. And so that's my approach to it so that I'm getting the clones done in the right order based on what my goals are and what my needs are.
So I have to ask you, I know you've done a lot of these. So tell us about a clone that you've had that has worked so well. You're like, I can't believe it actually did that for me.
I think what comes to mind immediately is our coach clone, because that's the one that my students and clients have access to. And I wasn't really sure if people would use it, if it'd be weird, whatever. But our clients and students have sent over, I think it's like 2,000 messages at this point. And we haven't had it for that long. We've had it for less than 90 days, so less than 3 months. They've sent 2,000 messages. That's 2,000 messages that, one, I haven't had to be at my desk answering, but two, that they've gotten immediate support on. My husband and I were doing the math on it, and it's 40 hours of support that they've received without me having to add 40 hours to my work week or to my month. So it's been really helpful to have that. And then to see the questions they're asking and see how my coach clone is answering has been really fulfilling to see that they're getting that support and those answers right away. It really is a wonderful thing. And I think that's what we're going to see in the future too, is this like hybrid of human and AI coaching together. And I think we're going to see more and more people who are like, I don't really want to join this program if it doesn't have this AI coaching with it beyond just a GPT. Like I said, this one is coded on 1.5 million words of mine. And so it's obviously a lot more than a GPT. So I think that's what we're going to see for the future. And I understand why. My coach actually, I was telling her about it and she's, okay, I need this too. So we set up a coach clone for her too. And it's been really cool to see how, as a user, like to see how I can ask her coach clone questions. And what I found for me personally is that I will go and ask questions that I maybe feel ashamed about or I feel embarrassed to ask. So if it's something that I'm like, okay, I told her I was going to do this and I haven't done it yet, or for whatever reason, I'm just feeling embarrassed that I haven't done X, Y, and Z. I go to her coach clone first and I'm like, okay, I said I was going to do this. I haven't done this yet. Can you help me? So then there's that mindset piece of it. And then once I've done it, I'll go to her and be like, okay, I did it. Here's what's my next step. It's been really interesting because that's the thing I've used it for the most. Or if it's late or it's the weekend or something like that and I have a question that I don't want to forget, but I also want to make sure I'm respecting her boundaries and not adding on more for Monday. I like going to her coach clone.
I love that. And I love the mindset piece because as you were saying that, I'm like, that's how I always am with my coach. Like I'm giving her an update. I'm like, I'm sorry, I haven't given you an update in over a month. If I had something like this, I would be like, okay, it's just AI. I'm just going to give that. So there you go. Brittany, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd love to let the audience know where they can find you. And I believe you have a free gift for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me as Women Thrive with AI on Instagram. On YouTube, it's also the Women Thrive with AI, but the name is Brittany Long. Our website is impactdrivenai.com, or you can reach me on email, brittany@impactdrivenai.com. Our free gift is the Moneymaker GPT, and that's going to show you how you can take what you're currently doing and make more money with what you're currently doing. this would be like if we were sitting in a consultation together, these are the exact questions that I would ask you to help you make more money. So all I ask, it is completely free for you to use, but all I ask is that once you use it and it helps you make more money, that you just send me an email and let me know so I can celebrate with you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to make sure that all of those links are in the show notes. And I can't wait to test out some of the things you mentioned today. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode today. If you loved the show, I'd appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.